All righty, so it's 7 o'clock on Monday, July 6, 2020, and I'll call the meeting to order. And do we have any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof from members of council? Seeing none. Before we go on, I left a special birthday party really early today to get to this YouTube Zoom meeting. So I just want to do a shout out because I told my niece Eva to be watching. So happy 9th birthday, Eva. And before we move into our minutes of our previous meeting, I'm going to ask Morgan Calvert, our acting township manager, to introduce Shannon, which is new to us in Adelaide Metcalfe. So Morgan.
Well, first of all, of course, happy birthday, Eva. That's a big number 9. I just want to take a quick moment for council just to introduce Shannon Black. She is our new CBO. I know that we passed the appointment bylaw a few weeks ago, but Shannon comes to us from Ingersoll, and we're extremely excited to have her. She's already hit the ground running. She's spending quite a bit of time meeting with everybody that she needs to meet with to do the information gathering thing, and we're going to get down to some solutions pretty soon. So I know she's got a big workload ahead of her. We got a lot of things that we absolutely need to get done in a short period of time, as council knows. So I guess I will just take a moment to acknowledge Shannon and see if she wants to say anything.
I just want to say, can you hear me?
Yep.
I just want to say thank you. And I'm really looking forward to this opportunity of working with the council and for the joint services and putting that together. So I'm looking forward to see what we can do as a joint service.
Thank you, Shannon.
And welcome to the team, Shannon and Adelaide Metcalfe, and also in North Middlesex and Southwest. It's very, to me, it's an exciting time for us in Adelaide Metcalfe. I think we've been working towards this shared model for a while, so it's great to have you on board.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, so I just got a text message. I missed cake, and I didn't realize Eva's actually 8, not 9. So my bad. So I'm going to move in close to that 7:0. No, we're not close to 7:05 yet, are we, Jennifer?
Not quite.
All right, so we'll move into the correspondence. If I can flip this page. So at 7:05, we do have a delegation, and that's Wade and Shelley Ingold at 3862 Scotchmere Drive, and that's regarding some municipal drains. So moving into our correspondence, our next regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 4th, and then Monday, August 17th, followed by Tuesday, September 8th. And I assume as things are going, we'll continue to do those on Zoom until we're able to get back in person. Mm-hmm. So the next section there is the recommended readings. Item number 1 is from Blue Water Recycling, and it's the June 2020 notes. Item number 2 is regarding Tribunals Ontario, and it's a memo. Item number 3 is from St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, and it's a conservation update for June 2020. Item number 4, we have a bunch there from the Assalva Bayfield Conservation Authority, and it's the GM report for June 18th, the June 18th agenda and of the Board of Directors, as well as the May 21st board meeting minutes. And then item number 5 is from CN. Okay, if there's no questions on any of those, we'll move into the action required, and it's from Blue Water Recycling, and it's a resolution regarding the transition of Blue Box program to a full producer responsibility. Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important to, I like Blue Water's recommendation that we amend support for producer responsibility, given that we're one of those small municipalities that might totally miss out on the benefits of that if the proposed rules aren't changed. So I move to support that resolution as presented by Blue Water.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Okay, Councillor McKinnon, any discussion at all? Seeing none, all those in favor and support of that resolution? Okay, and that's carried. So we just need a motion then to resolve that council receive and file correspondence item CC 1 to 5. Okay, that's Councillor Brody, second by Councillor Clark. All those in favor? And that's carried. And that brings us perfectly to 7:05. And Jennifer or Morgan, do we have the Ingolds in the waiting room ready to pop on?
Yes, we do. I can let them in right now.
Excellent. All right, I'll just wait till your audio is connected. All righty, can you hear us? And I'm assuming this is Shelley. Can't hear you so far. No, and it doesn't look like you're muted, so. Not yet. We can see if we're really good at lip reading, we'd be all set, but I am not. Morgan or Jennifer?
Yeah, that's a tough one. We can see her. Shelley, are you able to hear us? Can you hear us?
If you can hear us, give us a thumbs up. She can't hear us, and we can't hear her.
When I swept my screen to the right, it showed her audio was not on, but now that's not showing, so.
Yeah, it looks like her audio is not connected.
Yeah, because it doesn't see, I don't see her audio. Yeah, I can't see a little microphone beside it. So I don't know if can you request that as the host to have her start sharing her audio?
I used to have that functionality, but now they don't provide it. So I could, I'll try to get her in chat if you want to move forward with the meeting. I don't know.
Sure.
What if I do this? Can she see it? Can you see that?
It worked in the test.
Move it over a little more, Sue. I don't know what you're trying to say. There we go. Shelley, connect
Is it
on.
backwards though?
No, that's the right way. This is going to be a great YouTube video when people watch it live and also when they watch it back.
To the left, to the right, to the left.
I can try to give her a call-in number.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go back.
Okay, dokie. What we're going to do, if Morgan, you can work on that on your end, and we're going to continue on with staff reports, and hopefully at a certain point, once we hear Shelley start talking, we're going to jump right into that report or that delegation. So with that, our staff reports, our first one is from our fire chief, and it's the Kerwood wastewater treatment plant, and it's a staff report. So Chief Bordoff. You're on mute.
How about now?
That's
Good.
Perfect. So this is a report. It concerns the Kerwood wastewater treatment plant monitoring well. So a couple of years ago, the northeast monitoring well, which is number 2, was damaged and was repaired. So this monitoring well was damaged sometime last year again, and samples can't be extracted from that well. So past administration at the township was made aware of this, but no direction was given on to proceed with the replacement. So per the certificate of approval, sampling is done quarterly from the wells located along the perimeter of the property, and this cannot be done from this particular well. The monitoring well is not repairable, therefore needs to be replaced. So how it was damaged is not really known. However, based on the current location, it is assumed that some farm equipment caught the well and damaged it. So McLeod Water Wells has been contacted to provide a quote to drill a new well approximately 10 feet south of the existing well to prevent reoccurring damage and make it usable as per the C of A. So attached is a quote from McLeod Water Wells, and there are not local suppliers to perform this service. Therefore, McLeod Water Wells Limited is the only contractor that was contacted to supply a quote. And they were also the ones that I believe initially installed them and did the last repair on this particular one. So under the procurement policy under section 7 does allow a department manager or CAO authorized to make small order purchases for goods or services under $10,000 from such vendors upon such terms and conditions as the department deems appropriate. So due to the procurement policy and the need of the replacement of monitoring well number 2 in order to meet provincial compliance with the C of A, approval has been given to McLeod's to move forward with this project. So having said that, locates had to be done too. So the public works manager is on that. So once the locates are done, then McLeod's will forge ahead. So the financial impact, so the cost of this is $3,900 plus $507 HST for a total of $4,407. And this also includes $700 to decommission the existing well. So this will come out of the Kerr wastewater treatment plant repairs and maintenance 2020 budget. Council approved $10,800 budget towards repairs, equipment, and machinery, as well as $2,000 to repairs, maintenance for the facilities. And then the recommendation is resolved that council receive the Kerr wastewater treatment plant monitoring well staff report as presented by the supervisor.
Thank you, Chief Norton. Excellent. Thank you so much for the report and the update. Is there any questions at all? Yeah, Councillor McKinnon.
Just through you, Mayor Curtis, to Aaron, the new location, is this going to stop the damage to the monitoring well in the future?
Yes, and that's the reason for moving it approximately 10 feet south of the existing one. The existing one is it's right on the property line, and the farmer who crops the land, who owns the land, and the crops are right up against that well. And the other thing we might do is put a bollard there, just for safety's sake.
Action. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other questions at all? Okay, seeing none. So we just need a motion to receive that report. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? And that's carried. And we lost somebody. Oh, Sue's back. Okay. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, Shelley. I think, yeah, so we can hear you through your telephone there. We can see you through your laptop or iPad or something like that. So thankfully, we're able to get that all straightened out. Before we continue, it looks like Councillor Clark is she on here, or your video is just turned off?
I'm on.
Okay.
No, I'm on.
Excellent. That's good to hear. We just can't see you, so I just wanted to make sure. So, Shelley, we have received your letter with the response that from the letter that was sent from staff following our last council meeting, and I'll turn it over to you for your update.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Smith and councillors. Thank you for inviting us to present our concerns to you this evening. So if, with your permission, I will start with number 1 on our letter, which addressed the in-goal drain. We did receive the invoice from 81T Excavating regarding the repairs to the in-goal drain. Now the repair invoice states that the repairs were done to 6-inch clay tile and 8-inch plastic tile. That pretty much immediately raised a few flags for us. The in-goal drain is constructed of 300 millimeter or 12-inch plastic tile and 350 millimeter concrete tile. Nowhere in the actual in-goal drain is there any 8-inch or 6-inch tile at all, which kind of leads us to believe that the repairs weren't actually conducted on the in-goal drain. They were in fact about 20 meters to the east of where the in-goal drain is located. And our best guess is that the 8-inch plastic was an old drain that ran through the field that connected the 6-inch clay field tile to an outlet. So I'm not, you know, as I like our neighbors, they're all wonderful neighbors. I'm just not sure that having all of us in the watershed pay for their field tile repairs is really appropriate. Okay. Does anyone have any questions regarding the in-goal drain?
Councillor Brody?
So who made the initial call to get the repair done?
I believe leeches.
The leeches.
Leeches?
As far as I'm aware, that's correct.
The repair was done on the leach property. If I can make comment on this first item, in the billing summary, if you read it there, in-goal drain, 3 sinkholes on this drain. The first 2 sinkholes we excavated, we found the old 6-inch clay tile was not connected and seems to be still flowing as it was clean and free of debris. It must have been bubbling to the surface. The new drain had a hole in the side of the 6-inch and further down the line in an 8-inch plastic tile. And then it goes on further, so the next sinkhole was on the old clay tile. So it was not part of the municipal, apparently. So 2 out of the 3 holes were on the municipal, according to the contractor.
Okay. They weren't. No, I'm sorry, Wade actually was there when they repaired the drain, and they weren't. They were in the 8-inch tile, the old drain. That was not a municipal drain. In the engineer's report for the in-goal drain, it also states that when the drain went through, they would connect anything that they disconnected. Anything else was up to the landowner to ensure that it was marked. If it wasn't connected at that time, then it wasn't disconnected either. The 6-inch tile was never connected, to the best of my knowledge, to the 8-inch or to the in-goal drain. It was only into the 8-inch old private drain that went through the field.
Well, I can't offer any contradiction to what you said there. I wasn't around when the drain was constructed. That was prior to me being hired here. The general specifications on a drain are that the contractors, if they do cut off any tile, they are obligated to connect them. They are paid extra at the time to connect them. And it's typically, they make a best effort to catch everything as they go through. Beyond that, I can't really comment.
Mhm. Okay, I do, as I said, Wade was there when they, can you speak? Certainly you can speak.
Hey guys, I was there the morning when these guys were working on the drain. I had walked down to see what they were doing. So they said they had these sinkholes they had to investigate. So they asked me where I thought the main was. So I pointed it out, which, like we said, it was about 20 meters from where they were doing the repairs. So I initially said, well, that's not the main. So they just proceeded to go on and fix it because they were told that they were instructed by Jim to do the repairs. And my point is that this has been an ongoing problem on that side of the old drains, that they're always having trouble with them, but they're trying to bill them to the municipal drain. And I don't think it's our responsibility to be fixing them because they're not part of the municipal drain.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Is there any other questions at all from members of council regarding this first one? Yeah, Councillor Clark.
So are these the 6-inch clay and the 8-inch plastic, are they on your property or on the Leach property?
No, they're on the Leach property.
Okay, thank you.
If we have drain repairs on our own field tile, we fix them ourselves.
Okay. Is there any other questions at all, Councillor McKinnon or Deputy Mayor Hendricks?
No, I've had all my questions answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we move on, just Jim Reed, which is just to let everyone know that's watching, that's our drainage superintendent. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this matter?
No, not really. As I said, I'm just reading what the contractor said he did. I'm taking his word for it. I'm not going to dispute Mr. Ingold on this. I wasn't out there, so I guess we have to take his word on it. I can't comment further. This was only a 3-hour job, and they were in and out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if you want to move on to the Ingold field drain.
Okay, and if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to kind of do that in 2 parts.
Okay.
First of all, regarding the assessment for the billing, we don't really believe that the assessment for billing is fair or a correct assessment. At the time the drain was put in, and it was prior to when Wade bought the farm, and certainly prior to when I moved out here. From what we understand, Mr. Field wanted to drain his farm, and in order to do that, he had to come through property owned by Wade's dad. Wade's dad agreed. There were no tile running into it, no field tile, other than what Mr. Field had put into his farm. Now, at the time, both the Ingolds and the Fields were assessed benefit and an outlet for that drain. Several other properties in the area were assessed for an outlet, but they were either assessed no benefit at all or very little acreage that ran into it. Now, we're not experts in the Drainage Act by any means, and we don't have a great deal of knowledge here. We do agree that based on the original assessment, we would be assessed for approximately 50% of the benefit, but things have changed over 38 years. Other people have tiled into the farm or into the drain. We did a little bit of research, and Section 65 of the Drainage Act, and I'm just going to read it here. I kind of printed it out here. It addresses special provisions, which are both for assessment and the subsequent subdivision of the land. In this case, we believe that in particular, Section 65(3) might apply, and it states, if an owner of land that is not assessed for a drainage work subsequently connects the land with the drainage work for the purpose of drainage, or if the nature or extent of the use of a drainage work by land assessed for the drainage work is subsequently altered, the clerk of the local municipality in which the land is situate shall instruct an engineer in writing to inspect the land and assess it for a just proportion of the drainage work, taking into account any compensation paid to the owner of the land with respect to the drainage work. So again, it's a lot of legalese that, but from that, I take that if anyone else connects to the Ingold Field drain in order to drain their farm, then they should therefore be assessed for a greater portion than what they may originally have been assessed, and that it is cause for reassessment of the entire drain, not just for the billing, which is what we're asking. Now, over the past 5 years, there have been 3 or 4 properties that have tiled their farms, and they've connected into the Ingold Field drain. Over the past 10 years, there have been more, and it's you know, it's a rolling farm. There's always going to be washouts in it, but over the past 5 to 10 years, since more and more people are draining into that drain, we've noticed considerably more damage. Now, there may have been bigger rain events. That's entirely possible with climate change, but the fact remains that more people have tiled into the Ingold Field drain. And also in section 65.5, it says no person shall connect or disconnect from the drainage works without the approval of council of the municipality. Now, I've never heard of, I don't know, do people come to council when they want to drain their farms and connect to a municipal drain? I don't know. Do they talk to the drainage inspector? I have no idea. So, our point is things have changed in 38 years. It's not just, Mr. Field and Mr. Ingold who are responsible and who have water going into that drain anymore. So I would ask that council consider reassessing the billing and maybe assessing a little bit more fairly the number of people who do have water going into that drainage structure.
Thank you. I'll ask Jim, do you have the knowledge of that section 65 of the Drainage Act? And is that something that has been a past practice in Adelaide Metcalfe?
No. Well, I am somewhat familiar with it. Say that I have not dealt with that specific section specifically. There's a couple things here. Land changes the land use has changed. I cannot state by any means, and I respectfully here to the Ingolds here. This is somewhat hearsay. If there's more acreage coming into that watershed than what was originally designed, if that is the case, typically what would be done with an updated schedule of assessment would be reassess those lands that are putting more water into the watershed than what they're supposed to. But that will require an engineer to do that, to evaluate it and look at what's there. Your comments here about no topographical survey, the engineers of the day certainly didn't do, he did a survey, but he surveyed the run and the grade and reviewed the acreage. The topographical survey itself would deal more with trying to determine whether there was more sub-drainage going in there than what was stated. The engineers typically ask the owners, based on what they determine with the lay of the land, that landowner A has 10 acres going in. Does that sound right? Yes. The other landowners are there. You're going on their honor that is what they have. They are bringing in there, and maybe at the time there wasn't anything sub-drainage going in at all. Further to what you're saying about contractors, I have contractors come to me on a regular basis asking for mapping of the drains. I'm not saying that they come for every application by any way, shape, or form. They've got the equipment there. They can survey. They can determine what's going in. But in a lot of cases, they do ask. They want to know how big a tile is there and what they can bring in and how many acres rather. They are. I'm just reading before the meeting here that there is a drainage inspector in Ontario that if a contractor was found to be negligent in pulling more water in than what they were supposed to, or doing something else contrary to the act, they could have their license suspended. But you know, I wasn't there. I can't say, you know, in taking your word for this, if there's more water coming in than what should be, then maybe it should be reevaluated. I can't, but as I said to Mr. Ingold previously, to get an engineer involved costs money. And that generally, when I bring that up with landowners, saying engineer is a swear word. It's like lawyer. They don't want to get involved with it. And then, okay, well, next time we get into this, we'll look at it again. But I'm not saying that this is right. I'm just following the assessments that are laid out. Yeah, there are, as I said to Mr. Ingold as well, you're assessed based on a lot of benefit. The benefit itself is if the drain is on your property. So if the drain only comes up to your property, you're only assessed outlet for the acreage running in. They assess these differently now. One of the engineers uses the analogy of a drain like the 407 toll highway, that the guy at the top end pays more per acre than the guy at the bottom because he needs the whole drain. But anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here. I can't argue with you saying that maybe you're being assessed somewhat unfairly, but I'm not the engineer. That would have to be looked at, and it may not come out in your favor. Like that's, you know, you have to understand that if an engineer got hired and they went out and reviewed it, they could assess you even higher than what you are already. You know, and then I just put that out to you. That, but the drain itself is not sized by today's standards. The more farmers that, those of you that are farmers, the more tiling that goes into the ground, the more we're overloading these drains, the more top water is going on top of the ground and more surface erosion is taking place. And grass waterways are being the recommended solution to this if you don't want to get into spending thousands of dollars and twinning or putting in a whole new, much larger size tile, which would, you know, would be lots of money. Anyway, those are my comments.
Okay, and I think that's fair. You know, you have stated that the assessment may not be correct, and we certainly agree with that. What we're asking though is not at this time a reassessment of the entire drain, simply that you take a look at the billing, you take a look at the farms and the drainage that does go into the Ingold Field drain, the amount of the surface water from those farms that comes across, because you know, they're not all in pasture anymore that they used to be. That used to be like grass waterways and slow down the flow of water. And like the subsurface water now that comes in is just, it's probably 100 times more than what was originally assessed. So, not to mention, you know, the reconstruction of Walker's Drive, which has added additional road water as well. Does anybody have any?
If I may, I can't argue with a word you're saying here. It's true. The more subsurface drainage, the more road improvements we do. We add more catch basins. It's you know, they're trying to get more water into the drain quicker, and the drain, just quite frankly, with a lot of these drains, we're seeing water come out of catch basins instead of in because it's getting overloaded, and that's just like a relief valve. And you know, a day later, it isn't going that way, but that's kind of how the system works. say, we have thousands of these drains that when you're at the bottom end, you can't believe the amount of water that's coming down on you, and it's not getting any better as storm events become more severe. But we work with the system that we've got, and that's all I can do. All I'm allowed to do really is maintain. I don't have the authorization to put a new tile in for you.
Yeah. No, and that's not really what we're asking. We're just asking that the billing be assessed a little more fairly than what it is currently. Yeah, does anyone else have questions? Okay, can you just let me speak with Wade here for a minute? He's just wants to ask me a question.
Okie dokie.
Okay, sorry. Wade just mentioned.
Curtis, I keep going.
Sorry?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Wade was just mentioning that the original assessment did say that it didn't take into account any subsurface water, really. It was just an approximation of acreage, which, you know, Jim did mention that that was a common practice. You know, and it in no way, I don't think, planned or assessed for the amount of subsurface drainage that occurs now. Again, you wanted to say? Okay.
All right. Is there any questions at all from members of council? Comments? Yep, Councillor McKinnon.
Just a comment through you to Shelley and Wade. I know that the flow of water has increased immensely there because I'm the outlet, and my bush gets a lot of erosion in it because of the greater water that flowing through the drain now.
Okay. And is there any other questions or comments at all from members of council? All right.
I have a question for Jim. Sorry, I have a question for Jim. What would an engineer's report cost?
Well, they wouldn't necessarily have, if all you were looking at was looking at assessment, and this is where it's kind of loaded. It's a section 76 that they will do a reassessment, but there's no grant involved. So if all you're looking at is reassessing, then this is kind of it's a kind of a no-win situation for the landowner. He may get his assessment reduced, but then end up with a $500 or $1,000 bill to review it all. So it's you know, what Spreets themselves would do, since we're using Spreets now, they would typically not want to get into a reassessment until we got into a fairly major repair, and then they would do a report on it, and you'd be looking at a fair bit of money, but everybody would pay their proportionate share, and we would update it to today's standards. And you would sit down and talk to all the landowners as to if there were further improvements requested, and possibly try to get drainage mapping from the other landowners in the watershed and verify the acreage that's coming in. And at that time, if you found out that landowner A had 10 more acres coming in than what it should be, then we're gonna nail them on it at that particular time. It doesn't really help the situation if more acreage is coming in, because because tile drains are designed for the acreage and the gradient there. So it becomes you know, a kind of a no-win situation unless somebody at that time says we need to twin this or do some further improvements, or at least maybe down in the bottom end to accommodate the increased amount of water. And that's going to cost, you know, that's going to cost you the Ingalls a lot of money, because you've got all 4 branches of that drain running down through there. So it's, you know, if the situation becomes bad enough, then that's maybe with an upgraded report would be what's necessary. But to do a repair, and there have been some I've seen over the time that they've been maybe $1,000 worth of repair, and there's $8,000 worth of engineering. But at least you can get the grant on the engineering and doing that, because the section of the act will permit you to do that. That would probably be the best solution if we get into something down the road.
Okay.
Councilor McKinnon, you have a question or comment?
Through you, Mayor Curtis, to Drainage Superintendent Jim. The recent petition that was accepted last year from the Leaches and the Ingolds to come through my property, would that be a time to reassess that whole drain?
Well, it would still be a different report, but you could certainly, by all means, when you got the engineer there, and if you can pick his brain and get some free engineering advice out of him, by all means do so. And that is coming up, by the way. I've actually, Spreetz want to hold a meeting with you landowners, but I have been advised by my superiors that we can't do this because of the pandemic. But we would like to get that set up as soon as possible, that so we can move on with that. And then by all means, with the Ingolds want to, you know, we can. It's not a Spreetz report, but you can certainly ask. Mike is wonderful at. You know, they're doing dozens of these every year that he can advise better than I can. So by all means.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any other questions at all, or an appetite to discuss the requests from the Ingolds at all? Yep, Councillor McKinnon.
I'm going to be devil's advocate here, and they're not asking that they not pay their share. They're asking that they pay a fairer share. And I'm wondering if our drainage superintendent could look into section 65.3, is that the Drainage Act, and see if under the special provisions that the assessment could be changed and the billing rejigged.
Well, I will look into that for council, and I will report back to you on what I find. But I'm going to be going to Mr. DeVos and asking him on his professional advice and how to handle this, because I've never dealt with it in my 37 years here. I've never had to deal with it. So,
and that's fair.
Okay, so what I'm gonna ask Councilor McKinnon if we could have that as a motion.
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay, and a seconder to that. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks. Jennifer, you'll probably look back in the video to know what to have written down for that motion. Excellent. Is there any discussion at all?
No.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right. Okay, I think that is all on this matter, unless there's any other comments at all from members of council or anything else. Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. And Jennifer or Jim, if you could, when that report is going to be on council's agenda, if you'd be able to notify the Ingolds that it will be there so they can watch live on YouTube to be able to see what that report is.
Okay, can do. Thank you.
So much. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm glad we were able to sort through those technical difficulties.
I did, sorry, I did have a couple more things.
Oh,
if
sorry.
You would be able to speak for a few minutes.
I've been dealing with drains for so long, I didn't realize. Okay, continue on.
I know. I actually wondered if council would possibly look at the invoice from R&S Graham. Again, I do have a couple of things that raise some red flags. Number one would be the loads of concrete that he built. 6 loads of cement broken up cement that was basically garbage that he would have paid to get rid of. And he charged $400 a load. And he had the 6 loads, as far as I know, on the ground before noon on one day. So he didn't truck it very far. In a tandem dump truck, which was probably altogether about 100 metric ton of demolition rubble, basically. So I'm wondering, I think the cost for demolition rubble of $2,400 is a little excessive. I'm wondering if someone could speak to that and, you know, explain to me why that is a fair price.
Council will not have an answer for you. Hopefully Jim might be able to address that.
Well, if I can, yeah, I'm gonna go through this. There were 4 hours to load fill and 4 hours to truck 10 loads of fill in. So that was a total of $948 to bring in 10 loads of fill. So that the actual trucking was about $78 an hour, I believe, which is pretty cheap. The concrete, it's not scrap. Yeah, if you priced out trying to get this is a cheaper material than bringing in quarry stone. You have to bring in kind of a specialized material that's going to be big enough that it can hold back the water and not wash away. Quarry stone is just like gold, and it's trucking. Like I'm not exactly sure where he trucked it from, but it's not out of line. It's a lot of money. These costs are getting worse and worse as we're fixing washouts and open ditches and whatnot. But the broken concrete, we've had to buy it from some farmers, and they're not giving it away because it is wonderful material to be used for bases, for driveways, their farmers' yards, and we're certainly using it as a erosion material. So it's not garbage, but it's, you know, the trucking it's everything, you know. An excavator at $150 an hour, trucks. Any of you that have any experience in this, like it's a cost of doing business. My repairs aren't $100 anymore. They get excessive, and I'm sorry for that, but that's today's economy. This is cheaper than bringing in fancy material.
Jim, if I can add, we recently, as you know, had some tile work done, and they charge you from the time they leave the shop, not the time they hit your laneway at the farm. So because I think I read in the notes somewhere that you thought they weren't there that long. Well, our experience at our farm is we're paying before the guy even shows up, because he's charging from the time he leaves his shop and the time he gets back there.
Exactly. It's these smaller jobs, if they're there for a week, they may not charge float time, but you can't have somebody come in and only charge an hour for a machine. It's he's coming in from Melbourne. It's the cost that you have to float in, unload, safety protocols to do all that. It's, you know, some of these small jobs are as expensive as some of the more expensive ones because of that. But I have Scottish blood in me. I'm trying to do whatever I can to do as cheap as possible for the people. If you don't like the contractors I'm bringing in, I won't bring them in. I'll bring somebody else in, but I certainly don't try to bring the most expensive in. I try to do it as cheaply as possible and do as good a job as possible that we're not doing it twice.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I agree that trucking is expensive. Councillor McKenna and Councillor Brody, you know that I work for a trucking company. So I do understand that trucking is expensive. However, I could have brought the same amount of barrier stone from a pit in Dorchester and had barrier stone in there and paid the company I work for a fair rate for it for $2,500. And that would have been 4 to 8 inch barrier stone that they use on lake shores to prevent erosion and so on. So that's what caught my attention there.
Okay.
I also am questioning the 10 loads of fill that he trucked to the field cut, or that he says he trucked. He pushed dirt.
No, he took dirt from the fence line.
He took dirt from the fence line for the berm, but the dirt that was trucked in from a neighbor, Wade did that with our little trailer. We have a little dump trailer and he trucked all that dirt in. So I'm not quite sure where there's 10 loads of fill are coming from either. He did do work for another neighbor and was trucking fill for him for a new construction. But as far as we're aware, and Wade was there for a day and a half when they were doing the work, Wade was the only one that trucked the dirt into the washout. Does anyone, I'm not sure. I wasn't there, so.
And that's the hard part from the council's point of view, where we also weren't there.
We weren't there.
And the only thing really that we can do at this point would be going back to RNS Graham and asking them for clarification, I guess.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. Okay. One last thing, if I could. The Walker's Drive reconstruction. On the original plan for the Ingold Field drain, there are catch point basins delineated on both the north and south side of the road. When Walker's Drive was reconstructed, only the north side catch basins were put in. There are none on the south side. There are 2 culverts that run underneath Walker's Drive and dump into our field. I'm wondering why the catch basins or a Hickenbottom or something wasn't put in to direct that water away from our field and out of our crops.
And yeah, Jim?
I reviewed the report. There were no catch basins on the report on the south side of the road. There are 3 catch basins on the north side on each branch that were called for. I cannot say whether the road department took the ones out, whether they've been buried. I can't comment, but the report does not say there are catch basins on the south side of the road in 1982.
Yeah, they are on the original drainage map though.
No, they aren't.
On the map that we received from Jennifer, the catch basins are on the south side of the road.
Well,
there are 2 catch basins.
I have the extent of work on the branches. I have the profiles, and they were not included. So you're saying that there were some there, and not to say that they can't be put in afterwards, but I don't have record of them having catch basins on the south side of the road.
Okay, they may never have been there, but they are on the drainage map. And now with the road being so high and those culverts coming underneath the road, there's a lot of water that comes through those culverts.
New drains now, as I say, there's a lot more detailed engineering done on them than there was in 1982. I'm not knocking the engineer. The engineer of the day did what the farmers were prepared to pay. We're getting into a lot more elaborate drains now. Typically, the standard is they will put one on both sides of the drain, and the road department generally pays for them because it's for the benefit of the road. Mm-hmm. There aren't any on the downstream side, which logically speaking is probably the better place to have them, because if it catches the water going through the surface culverts, then hopefully it would catch it before it overflows onto the downstream lands. However, given the size of the drain, those culverts are a lot bigger. They are designed to take a heck of a lot more surface water. We just see this all the time. They blow right by the catch basins and then right on down, because there's more water coming in with road improvements and road ditching than what the drains can take. And that's just one more reason why we look at bigger drains to alleviate that problem. But anyway, that's I can show you, if you've got the report there, you should be able to see on the extent of work on each one of those branches, and it only calls for catch basins on the north side of each branch.
Mm-hmm. And it may, in the engineer's report, but on the map, they're marked there. And I'm just not sure. It makes sense rather than dumping a great deal of water into our field and washing out our crops. It just makes sense to me that there should be something to direct the water that is coming from the culvert under the road.
In looking at the drawings, I'm not saying you're wrong. They're not very clear, but it does look like there's little spots there showing on the south side, but they aren't showing, say, in Jennifer's drawing it better than mine. These photocopies are not very clear. That and we can look at that. You know, I'm not opposed to having to, but that's a separate entity. With
I think most likely the best opportunity is for the Ingolds and Jim. I don't know if you sat down yet to discuss this at a meeting, or if you're able to actually get together at all just during this whole COVID thing.
Well, I'm more than happy. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to meet with them here. Like, this is a separate item here, but I think also if we're going to look into this section 65 or whatever, then I will be consulting with the engineer anyway. Is the best way to handle this. And maybe this is, if we're going to be installing more catch basins on the road, then this is an improvement that can be looked at with. We can get grant, and then we look at the assessment at the same time. That's the direction that the Ingolds want me to take. Anyway, well, I'll talk to the engineer first of all.
Yeah. Morgan, you had your hand up.
I was just going to say, given the length of this delegation, that maybe administration can take a crack at working with the Ingolds to go over the maps and alike to determine a course of action. And if there's council involvement beyond that we could take a report back to council.
Yeah. I think that's best. If not, we might be here talking about drains until midnight. And I like to learn new things. We do have a long list of items on our agenda. So. Okay. So Jim, you'll be reaching out to Shelley and Wade then?
I will.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. We're leaving the meeting.
Got that plan?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, okay, so we're all set. I don't think there's anything else for Jim for this meeting. I'm sure he'll be heading out after this. So with that, I guess we'll move into our next staff report with our Public Works Manager, and you have quite a few tenders that were submitted, and you have the results there. So Coulter.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Smith.
Good, you're still
the first
there.
report I have. What's that?
So good, you're still there after about an hour.
Yeah, I'm awake.
That's good.
Yeah, the first report I have is on tenders and quotes. The tenders for single surface treatment, 6mm stone chip, bonded wearing course, and newly constructed sidewalks were issued in the month of June. Tenders and quotes are issued in compliance with the township procurement policy. The reports on all 4 tenders are attached for council's review and approval. Mayor Smith, you want me to roll on to the first tender there?
Yeah, and then once we're all done, all the tenders and approving them, we'll approve your report.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right, so the first tender, 6mm stone chip tender 05-2020. The tender closed on June 16th. Recommendation would be to go with the low bidder. In this case is Earl Blaine Trucking Limited in the amount of $14.62 per ton.
Okay, and everybody had a chance to read through that. So I let Coulter know that he doesn't have to read through that. And the public, if you want to check out exactly what all of the rest of the tenders are, you can check out our website and look at the agenda there. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
Yeah, I was just wondering, have we used Earl Blaine before?
We have a few years back.
Okay, because I don't recall seeing them. It's nice to see they're considerably less money than the other ones that we've
Yes,
used.
for you, Mayor Smith. Sorry, yeah. The reason why they are a little bit lower, they are using it as a backhaul. So that's how they became lower than the rest. But usually they are up around the 1750 a ton.
Excellent.
Okay, is there any questions on this? If not, I'll take a mover and seconder for approval. Okay, Councillor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. You have a question, Sue, or all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay.
All right, perfect. The second tender is the single surface treatment tender, which also closed on June 16th. The recommendation would be to go with the low bidder again. In this case, there was only one contractor to bid. That was Norjohn Contracting and Paving Limited, in the amount of 35 cents per meter square apply and $2.42 per meter squared supply and apply.
Okay, thank you, Coulter. Any questions at all? Mover and seconder for the recommendation. Or do you have a question, Councillor McKinnon?
Just a question through you to Coulter. How does that fit into the budget, the budgeted line?
That's right on target with our budget, Betty Ann.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so would you like to move that, Councillor McKinnon?
Yes, I'll move
Okay,
the motion.
seconded by Councillor Clark. All those in favor? And that is carried. All right,
the third tender is the new sidewalks going on Napperton and Pike. Our recommendation would be to go with the low bidder again, which is Autoform Contracting London Limited. This was the contractor that did Kerwood Main Street sidewalks last year. We got along really well with them, and I'm happy to see them come in as low bid.
Okay, excellent. Do you have any questions at all from members of council? Okay, Councillor Clark.
Through the mayor to Coulter, what is the proposed start date, or have they indicated anything for that?
I have talked to them. Sorry, through you, Mayor Smith, to Councillor Clark. I have talked to them. We were late, obviously, getting our budget taken care of. So they are going to try and fit us in about mid-September, late September. So last year it was about the same time, if I recall, around late September, maybe October. So they're hoping to get us in. Everybody's about 90-95% capacity for projects this year so far.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, mover and seconder by Councillor Brody, second by Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? And that's carried. And that's one that I'm really looking forward to. I think Councilor McKinnon, you've been on council the same length of time that I have been, and every year we talk about sidewalks, and it's exciting to see those finally getting in, and we're getting closer and closer. So if you're talking to anybody in the Pike Napperton area, let them know that they should see some construction happening in September.
All right, the final tender on this report is for the bonded wearing course. The recommendation would be to go with Norjohn Contracting and Paving Limited in the amount of $9.60 per meter squared.
Okay, mover and seconder for that. Yeah, Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Clark. If any discussion, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, and we just need a motion to accept that report from our Public Works Manager for the tenders and quotes. Okay, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. And your next report there, Coulter, it's the COVID-19 Business Management Plan, and it's the staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Smith. The province of Ontario and the township of Adelaide Metcalfe both declared an emergency on March 17th, 2020. Since then, both public works garages have been closed to the public. Staff has been working with the County of Middlesex HR department through the servicing agreement to ensure business continuity in the wake of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Measures have been put in place to ensure staff's health and safety. These measures follow discussions and planning between senior staff and council to ensure the health and safety of staff and residents while still providing essential municipal services. Attached is the Public Works Business Management Plan has been created by staff in collaboration with the Middlesex County HR Department. Administration is creating a separate plan as well as the fire department. The financial impact, there are significant financial impacts to the 2020 budget, as the purchases to protect residents and staff's health and safety was not considered in the budget process. Staff has been directed to keep track of purchases related to COVID-19 as it is anticipated. There may be funding made available to municipalities to offset these costs, as municipalities were and still are considered an essential service when the provincial emergency was declared. So yeah, attached is the Public Works Business Management Plan. It is rather, but it is in place to protect staff and the residents.
Okay, thank you, Coulter. So we need a mover and seconder to receive the report. Okay, Councilor Brody and Councilor McKinnon, all those in favor? And that's carried. And then is there any questions at all on the business management plan? Seeing none, mover and seconder for approval, or Morgan?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor, through you to the rest of council. I just wanted to kind of emphasize the importance of this plan, and really, I guess it's going to be fairly fluid as new health measures are enacted and old health measures are removed. So this is probably going to be the first and likely the last time you folks will see the plan, because it will become one of those living documents that we'll just get used to working with. I know, and I'm not sure if the chief agrees with me or not, but I'm not sure. I believe the fire department has a greater training program and awareness of how to deal with hazardous situations or situations related to disease control or pandemic things. So, Chief, I'm not sure if you guys are working on a plan, but I think, to be honest, your training is already elevated beyond what a pandemic plan would do for you folks. You're already following these health measures in these cases, but these plans are absolutely important for public works staff and administration to follow. This is part of our, I know I sent an email to council. It's part of our phased approach to working through the pandemic in terms of business continuity, where phase one is really about training staff, getting everybody up to a level of awareness where they're working within that new environment. Phase two is to start looking at opening up how we can work within the public realm. Maybe that's by appointment only, or one person in the office at any given time. But we really need to hammer this plan home and make sure that people are following it before we can take that extra step, because there are lives at stake. So just want to provide a bit of a comment to Coulter's report.
Thank you, Morgan. Is there any questions at all? Seeing none, I don't think I got the mover and seconder for approval of the plan.
No.
Okay, Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Clark. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you, Coulter. Is there any questions at all for the Public Works Department? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our next staff report, which is from our clerk, Jennifer.
Thanks, Mayor Smith. My first report is regarding the administrative business management plan. Much like Public Works, it's a business plan that's put in place for the administration office. So it's geared to what we need to do on our end here in the office. So it's for council's consideration for approval. My two recommendations is that council receive my report as presented, and my second recommendation is that council approve the business plan for the administration office as presented by myself. And this will be something that will probably play with emergency management. It'll be a living document like Morgan had stated, and it'll change as times change, as COVID's change, as regulations come through. So yeah, it'll be something that staff will have to stay abreast on, and stay on and keep it current.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Do you have a mover and seconder to receive that report? Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councilor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that is carried. And then the next one there is to approve the COVID-19 business management plan. If is there any questions before I do that? Councilor Clark, moving that? No questions?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
No, I'll move it.
Okay. By Councilor Clark and seconded by Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? And that's carried. Councilor Brody, are you frozen or just really still? Anybody else able to see Mike move around at all?
No.
He looks like he's frozen.
Yeah.
He looks frozen.
Yeah, he disappeared on me now. So.
The rural internet.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to continue on. We still have a quorum. Hopefully, Mike will be able to get back on. How about we jump over the next one? That's a big one. The wheelie waste and recycling collection just until Mike comes back, because that's just a hot topic compared to the payables. So let's go into the account payables.
So my third report is just the accounts payable listing from June 13th to July 2nd. It's in the amount of $547,870.77. You'll note that the accounts payable listing lists $550,852.19. That's because there's a credit from the Ministry of Finance for policing services, and that credit is applied to the 2019 policing costs. Credits don't print on the accounts payable listing, as council has showed interest in this format. So we're not able to print the credit, but the total is for $547,870.77. 13 of those are checks, and then the rest is between AFTs and EFTs.
Is there any questions at all on the accounts? Seeing none, I move and seconder to receive the invoice payment approval staff report as presented by the clerk, acting treasurer, and the council approve the account listings for the period of June 13th to July 2nd, 2020 in the amount of $547,870.77. Councilor McKinnon and Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor? And that's carried. And Councilor Brody, we skipped over Jennifer's second report, automated the waste and recycling collection, just because I wasn't sure how long you're going to be.
I lost connection. I
Yeah.
could see me, but I couldn't see anybody else. I'm good. That seems all right now.
Okay. I noticed you didn't put your hand up for the one motion, and then I realized you were not moving at all. So.
I wasn't.
All right. So we're going to go back to your second report there, Jennifer.
So this is kind of a lengthy report because it goes right back from when this first came about, from November, when we had a delegation from Francis, who's the president of Blue Water Recycling Association. He brought back some information back to council in December, and one of the council meetings in December, the second, council made the decision to go with a new automated collection system due to costs contributing to being more green and trying to be more efficient with a wheelie bin and residents not having to lug garbage bags to the road. So if you go down further, the financial impact, there is an impact to the 2020 budget. If council chooses to amend their decision from December 2nd and change the service delivery to weekly, there will be an additional $33,100.22 that will be applied to the municipal levy. And that's based on $30.62 per waste bin. And if you look at the attachment there's 1,081 units, and that would be distributed over 1,100 households. There's also the attachment 8, which has come out after, and it's for the expanded polystyrene recycling service. The additional costs are approximately $3,500 plus staff time to administer and monitor the program. We would generate revenue to offset some of the expenses if residents participated, at a revenue of $7 per cubic yard, but it's hard to say how much the township would generate, as this is a new program to our municipality and we don't know what residents would participate. And finding room in an appropriate location for the 2-yard dumpsters may be problematic, considering we're looking at some work being done at public works yards. I have 3 recommendations there to receive the staff report as it's presented. If council wants to go with weekly, we'll have to do a motion to amend the motion from December 2nd. And then my third recommendation is that we just shelve the expanded polystyrene recycling service at this time, as it's not been budgeted in the 2020 budget.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Councilor McKinnon?
Through you, Mayor Curtis, were we not going to review the program 6 months into it so we can see what obstacles we have and what we, whether bi-weekly or weekly, we're going to continue? Was that not understood that we'd review it in 6 months?
So I don't think there was a direction from council that we would review it. I think we were going to look at it, and the discussion at the June meeting was that we're going to have this report here at this meeting.
Okay.
I don't, Jennifer, is that correct? We didn't have, it wasn't like a 6-month review or something like that.
Right. So through your Mayor Smith to Councillor McKinnon, there was no direction from council to go with the 6-month review. However, it was discussed that a 6-month review would occur. But staff was given direction to bring this report for the first meeting in July, which is tonight. That way it gives council an idea with how many concerns we've received to date. And as you see on the attachment there, we've received 7 plus my 4. So when you think about that between 1,100 household, it's not that many. So I'm not sure if adding 33,000 to the budget quantifies from 17 concerns. Yeah, but that's totally up to council. And what we would do, instead of putting it on as a line item, it would just be within the municipal levy.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, Councillor Brody?
I'd love to hop in right about now, because I'll tell you, my garbage bin in 1 week is overflowing. I have the biggest one we get. I've had probably 25 at least phone calls about when are we going to go weekly. I'm burning more garbage than I did before because I can't fit. I'm full in a week. How about every small business out there that has more employees? I have 4 children, which is a little bigger than most per se, but I know I bought the big bin and I'm full. It's full right now, and we have to take it all out and burn it before I can get to week 2. And I've had 20. I bet you I've had 25 phone calls about it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brody. Deputy Mayor Hendricks, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did. First of all, did we not, because everybody's got a charge for the bins, did we not charge more to the people that were getting weekly pickup?
That's
yes,
correct.
So
yes.
Yeah, so if we provided weekly pickup to everybody, shouldn't that cost be not just split up between people who are already paying more? And to Mike's point, myself, in 2 weeks, I don't fill either one of my bins, but we're a retired couple, and I've had the opportunity. I was in Home Hardware, and I kind of had a mini constituents meetings because I had about 6 of my neighbors waiting in line with me, and they're all really wanting weekly pickup, at least for March to September. Like, they would be willing to have bi-weekly pickup in the winter, but they're saying right now with this heat and the kids having been home, that they're keeping their bins in the garage to keep the critters out of it, and it's smelling up the place. It's just they can't manage the garbage in this heat. So with the exception of one other couple who was the same as us, retired, everybody else really wanted weekly pickup.
Councillor Clark?
Yeah, I think when we made the decision to, in the more rural areas, to go bi-weekly, COVID wasn't even on the map. And I think given since COVID is here, I think everybody's garbage has gone up because you're not going out to eat, you're home more. Some of my neighbors have complained to me. Me personally, we have the small garbage one, but I went over to one of our rental houses, it's empty, and I brought both the blue box and the garbage bin over here because I'm paying for it anyway. So yeah, I think we may have to rethink this and go to the weekly, especially given the current COVID environment. So that's all I had to say.
And if I could, when we were switching over to the bi-weekly, that was at the beginning of June, I put a post on Facebook, and it did generate a lot of discussion and comments, and a lot of those were asking why we went to the bi-weekly pickup, if we can go back to the weekly pickup. So I think, yes, there is only a handful of people that have put in a formal complaint or has contacted the office, but I think there's a lot of discussion out there. And my thought is, and I've said this before at council, is that if there's one person that's willing to complain, there's at least a handful of people that also agree. And yes, there may be only, say, 10 or 15 that have put in a formal complaint, but that means that there's a lot more people. And as we just heard, there's quite a few people that also are looking for the weekly pickup. There's also that mindset that going from weekly to bi-weekly, it's a lesser service, and that's something that our residents are not too fond of. And I think during this whole process, is what I've learned is that the communication, it was really left up to Blue Water Recycling. And I think from that point of view, we should have done our own newsletter, our own mail out to every resident, explaining what the new system was going to be, because I think the ball was kind of dropped with any communication that was out there, because I can still drive down one part of the township to the other, and on a Tuesday, there's wheelie bins that are out that should not be out because it's not that week. So the thing is that I think, going back to Councillor McKinnon's point of, is Deputy Mayor Hendrick's point with how does that work with the additional pickup, and the current weekly pickup, they had the additional fee. The benefit of us looking at this right now is that there's been no fees collected at all, because we pushed that back to the final installments in our taxes. So if we want to make a change, we have to make it now. So then we can remove that additional fee from those urban areas, because the tax bills aren't printed yet. And just because everyone's talking about how much garbage they create, for my household, which is only myself and my wife and my dog Charlie, we like the large bin for recycling and the very small bin for garbage is perfect for us. However, I sometimes forget that it's our Tuesday. So it kind of sucks that you then have to wait 4 weeks. So that doesn't really work. So I think that hopefully council and I would be in support of going to the weekly pickup. I understand that's going to be an extra amount in our budget, but I think that's, when you're accustomed to a level of service of weekly pickup in the community, that's what's expected. Yeah, Councillor Clark.
So is the proper procedure then is that, because I moved the original motion, that I'm in agreement with amending that motion? Is that where we go from here? Or you just want to, I'd be prepared to amend the motion to resolve that we go to weekly collection from bi-weekly?
And I'd second that.
Okay. And the main question that I have is, how is this going to be communicated out that we're now back to a weekly pickup? And when will that start?
So to you, Mayor Smith, I'd have to contact Francis, because if you look at attachment 7, he provided what it was going to cost additionally. but he did not provide when it could start. Could it start next week? Probably. I don't know if it could even start this week. That's something I'd have to ask Francis when he'd be able to start weekly.
Yeah.
Curtis, when do we mail out the tax bills for August?
So through Mayor Smith to Councillor Clark, council needs to make a decision tonight because we are starting that work right now because we don't have a treasurer. It's requiring a lot of more staff time to put these tax bills together. There's lots of little things that have to go on the final tax bill. Dog tags is one. This garbage will be another one. There'll be drains that needs to go on. And because nobody here has done tax bills before, it's going to take a little bit extra time. So council needs to make that decision tonight if possibly, so that I can give direction to staff that, on putting the extra 33,000 on the budget for the weekly pickup.
So I was looking at it from a communication piece. I did, like, if they were going out fairly soon, then we could insert in there stating that we're going to be doing weekly. That was my only thought process there.
The tax bills won't be going out to the last week of July, so we still have 3 more weeks.
Okay.
Morgan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, what I would suggest is that council just direct staff to look at implementing it as soon as reasonably possible. This way we can, as administration, consider things like a communication strategy in conjunction with the BRA, so that we have a couple channels hitting our constituents. We can look at the timing of implementation of the weekly pickups so that it is appropriate for residents and given, and we can provide them enough time really to be prepared for that weekly pickup.
Okay. And the other thing that I think staff will have to look out for is because we're currently doing the bi-weekly, I think a lot, if anyone, they were asked, like, choosing their bin size, for example, if there was a family that chose the large bin because it was bi-weekly, we may have the issue of some residents coming back asking for a smaller bin because it will be a weekly pickup. So they may not want to have that larger one because they won't fill it up. So that's the other probably administrative point, that there could be some more time dealing with that. Okay.
Do they not just call Blue Water for that switch out or no?
Yes, through you, Mayor Smith, Councillor Clark, they call Blue Water Recycling now. That changed out, and then they change or give us their billing of what the changes are for the addresses between the 1,100 households.
Okay. So we can include that in our communication strategy. That might be something that they should think about when moving towards a weekly pickup.
Yeah. Okay, so that was moved and seconded by Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, and that's to move to the weekly pickup. And should we, in that motion, have some of that wording that Morgan said about communication? Something like that.
So we'll leave it up to the administration to indicate that.
Yeah, and that it would be in effect really as soon as possible with the communication piece. Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. So the one main thing I think exiting this is that if anybody is watching on YouTube and watching this online or has heard that we are switching back to the weekly pickup, we're not sure when that will be, but we will be switching back to the weekly pickup sometime in the near future, and that you'll have some communication from the township. So tomorrow is Tuesday. The pickup will be on the north side, not the south side, but in the future it'll be both sides of the township, whatever day it is, if it's still Tuesday or whenever it is. Okie dokie. And so that's that first motion. So we also have the other motion that we're not going to proceed with the expanded polyurethane recycling service as presented by the Blue Water Recycling Association at this time. That's the recommendation, is not to proceed with that. So do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor? And that's carried. And the final one for that, I think it's just to receive the report. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks. Yep.
Yeah, could I just, I think that polystyrene would be a good thing to try and recycle later. So we should consider what it might cost and how it might work for maybe next year.
We will, Morgan, put that on that long list of to-dos.
Will do. Yeah.
Sounds good.
We'll take a look at that for sure and bring it forward for 2021 budget considerations.
Yeah, it's, I imagine it's not huge, but around Christmas time it can be.
Very true.
Sorry, that's my pupper. He's having a good time.
By the way, since I mentioned my dog, so Morgan's dog's name is Jackson. So, all right, mover and seconder to receive the waste and recycling collection wheelie bin program service delivery staff report as presented by the clerk, Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. So our next, is there anything else, Jennifer, at all?
No, I don't have anything else for council.
Perfect. All right, so our next staff report is from our acting township manager, and that's our council meeting for July 20th. Morgan.
Yeah, this one is real simple. I think council's only used to having one meeting in July and one meeting in August. So I'd actually like to amend this report to also move to one meeting in August as well. Jen, I'm not sure what the date was that we were discussing, but this is just better.
17th.
17th. So August 17th as well, if I could ask out of council that we either postpone or defer those two meetings. And this just better supports staff and their ability to take vacations and get away during these times that we're in.
Alrighty, and that is, so you're wanting to also remove August 17th or keep that one? I just wasn't clear.
Remove it.
Remove it?
It's remove the August 17th, right, Jen?
Yes.
Okay. Okie dokie. So we just need a mover and seconder, I guess, for that motion. I just won't read it out. Councillor Clark, or do you have a question?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I believe on July 29th, we have a planning meeting, which that's not a regular council meeting, I guess, or is it a different kind of planning meeting? Because if we don't have traditionally our second meeting of the month is for planning applications. So we need to be aware that some of those are out there and need to be looked after. So I'm not sure what the plan is for those.
Yeah, Morgan?
Yeah, so what we're looking to do with the first planning meeting of July 29th is basically testing the process. It's not something that we're used to doing, which is having a Planning Act meeting using Zoom. So there is quite a lot of coordination and opportunity for challenges. So what we've done is we've taken the recommendation, working with the planner at the county to determine what applications we can take forward on July 29th, which is basically the lower risk ones, the ones that have a low opportunity for appeal. And then as soon as we go through that process, we'll debrief with council and staff, and then get right into that second planning meeting based on the tweaks that we need to do, if there are any. And I know that in some cases we have to provide 20 days notice. Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 15 or 20. So basically, as soon as that meeting's done, we work towards getting that second meeting on the books. It might not be, the second week or whatever we're used to in August. It might be, exactly 20 days after our first planning meeting. We want to get through these as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Brody?
Yeah, that'd be my big concern of getting rid of that August 17th meeting, that we just have too many of these. We're going to miss, that's going to be another month for those people if we push that off, correct?
Yeah, so this is just the regular meeting of council, not the planning meetings. The next planning meeting will have to be scheduled almost immediately after our first planning meeting of July 29th.
So it could end up being that week of the 17th or 20th anyways?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Morgan and I had that conversation trying to figure that out. And because my concern is the same, that there is a large number of planning applications. And the thing is that the meeting that he's suggesting that we cancel is just a regular meeting. We will continue, as long as we're using the Zoom format for council meetings, we're going to continue to have the planning meetings as a completely separate meeting. If not, it becomes very confusing. So it's really a matter of just the notice period. So if after the July 29th, I think, is that planning meeting, if there's any tweaks we have to do or whatever it is, then staff can implement that and then send out the notices for the next one, and then whatever date that is.
Yes, no, I'm gone from the 21st to the 28th. That's
okay. And I guess, so with that, if council members are away, I'm assuming you're not traveling outside the country, but if you are quarantined, and just send it off to Morgan or Jennifer so we know what days that council's away. Or if you are away, the benefit of Zoom and using meetings here, you could be anywhere in the world and we wouldn't really know it.
I'll be at a lake, so I won't have my computer on. Sorry.
Okay.
You might have better reception than we have on the farm.
Yeah, it might actually. I still won't have it on.
Yes. Got it. Okay, so with that, we'll have a motion then to amend that motion to then remove the July 20th and the August 17th council meetings. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, and seconded by Councillor Clark. All those in favor? And that's carried. And then just note that there will likely be a planning meeting that pops up at the end of August, but we're just not sure when it'll be. Okay. And then we also just have that motion to receive that report. Councillor Brody and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, is there anything else, Morgan, from your end?
No, other than, as I say, once we get through that first planning meeting, what we just didn't want to do is provide notices to the public that would otherwise provide them potentially incorrect direction as to how to participate in the planning meeting. So as I said, as soon as we get through that first one, then we're going to know everything we need to know to move forward and to continue to move forward.
Alrighty, so that's the last of our staff reports. Is there anything at all for other business? Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
A couple of things. I got some comments. I guess they could be forwarded on to the county, to Chris Trainey, but the people on the businesses on 2nd Street were extremely happy with the paving job that's been done there. So it's been a lot nicer driving in and out of the north side of Strathroy. I also have a concern about the hotel property. There's been zero action on there ever since we went into, I think they kept working for a few weeks after the emergency orders, but I don't think they've been back there for a couple of months. So I'm wondering if we've heard anything about the progress of that development.
I haven't heard anything, but if Jennifer or Morgan, if you'd send a note out to council members to see what's going on there.
Through you, Mayor Smith, CBO Shannon, she reached out to the developer and they responded back on Friday, July 3rd, that they will be restarting construction soon. That's all that their email said.
Construction shut down.
Okay, hopefully that's gonna get back up and going. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, I think we probably have to go, I'd have to request that we go into closed session to discuss acquisition, disposition of property and municipal assets. So if we could do so at this time, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
And I would suggest it would be a conflict for you, Mayor.
Okay, jokey. Morgan, is that, I'm assuming, is that something that you're ready to do?
Yeah, we're prepared. We got a lot more information than what we were anticipating to receive this morning. So we're absolutely prepared to have that discussion.
Okay, so before we do that, is there anything else that we'd like to discuss? Just because I'm assuming when we come back, we will not be live on YouTube, or will we be, Morgan? No. Okay, so before we go into a closed session, then why don't we just give the third and final reading to that one bylaw, the zoning bylaw amendment, and then when we exit out of the closed session, we'll follow up with the last two bylaws.
Yep, so moved.
Okay, moved by Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hendricks, and that's resolved that the third and final reading be given to bylaw number 8 of 2020, zoning bylaw amendment McDougall at 4225 Calvert Drive, and that the bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal be attached. All those in favor? And that's carried. And then for that closed session, mover and seconder to resolve the council hold a closed session meeting as provided for as per section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, and that's under section A, B, C, and F. Is that correct? Of the Municipal Act. Mover and seconder?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Councilor McKinnon, or Councilor Brody, sorry, and Councilor Clark. All those in favor? And that's carried. And thank you so much for tuning in. We're just going to go into the closed session. And like I said, at the end of that, we'll be ending that and then following up with the motion for bylaw number 39 and 40 of 2020, and then just the motion to adjourn. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in.